Who done stepped in the game at point blank range? Who done stepped in the game at point blank range? Who done stepped in the game? Stepped in the game. Stepped in the game.
Who done stepped in the game? Well, year's almost a wrap, so I guess I can go ahead and talk about one thing. That would be Nintendo Switch's successor being revealed by Nintendo officially. And that obviously didn't happen. So I can hold the L for that. That's fine. I was wrong. I thought it would be revealed before the end of calendar year 2024. And as of this current time, which is less than 6 hours before the new year, yeah, I'm incorrect on that. Unless some miracle happens before midnight, which I doubt. So it looks like Nintendo, sometime within the next few months or so, will announce whatever needs to happen for the successor going forward. Now, I guess I'll eat crow first. Yes, I was wrong on that. And the reason why I thought that it was going to happen this calendar year was mainly because of Nintendo making every effort to say how them launching a successor during the holiday would not affect sales of the current Nintendo Switch, which they're right about. Because even when Switch 2 or whatever it's called launches, there will be a substantial amount of original Switch sales due to probably a price decrease of the original unit, which I fully expect. A price decrease of Switch games, especially third-party Switch games. There's going to be a mad dash for people trying to buy those last minute, especially as they go out of print. And stores try to get rid of those copies to make room for Switch successor copies for 10th generation. There's going to be a mild to high software demand for original Switch software with regards to that. So that I expected, and that kind of led me to believe that Nintendo would announce, Nintendo proper would announce a successor to Switch. I'm not really sure, but I'm fairly sure that back in 2016, that was Nintendo of America's doing. As far as the original October reveal with Rooftop Karen and whatnot, that went viral, was hilarious. But I do believe that was Nintendo of America's doing. If I'm not mistaken, I believe I watched a podcast with Kid and Krista, and I think they did discuss how they went through the process of planning that. This time around, it appears to be all Nintendo proper, kind of like the original Wii Reveal, which all that marketing there. If you listen to some of the old retrospectives or postmortems from like Perrin Kaplan or any of the other VPs of marketing back then there at the time, Nintendo of Japan proper NCL was, how can I say this? They were all about promoting what the next system would be, with or without NOA's help. Like, they were just going to do it. This is what we're doing. Either get on board or deal with it. So that happened. And that kind of got me to thinking, maybe Nintendo will do this thing regardless of whether or not NOA has any input. So, yeah, that had me thinking, you know what? This thing might actually get announced the same way it did with the original Nintendo Switch in 2016. But considering that NOA didn't really have any input or didn't or doesn't have a plan currently, it kind of makes sense that, hey, they're not doing anything, and then sometime in Japan or whatever they decide to, they're going to do a worldwide reveal of the system. So expect random YouTube videos, because it's not going to be a Nintendo Direct. Nintendo is just going to do a full, because mass market consumers don't know what a Nintendo Direct is. They know that a random YouTube video comes out and says, hey, welcome to Nintendo Switch Plus, or whatever it's going to be, right? And people are going to flock to it. especially if they saw it during a Super Bowl commercial. I mean, I think Dr. Strange just released a video talking about that earlier, but that was also one of the big things. Even though it was after the initial reveal, which did well, backing it up with the Super Bowl commercial was really, really good. That definitely did help. How can I say this? Combat gaming press with the negative narratives that they had then at the time from the original reveal. So there was nothing that gaming press could do to talk negative about the system before it launched to kill it the same way they killed Wii U. More about, press killing Wii U in older ShadowCasts that I did. It was almost like 4 hours long, where we went through the entire video over and over again. It's strange because I'll do another video later talking about some other YouTubers and some YouTube comments where they kind of still pretend that they watched that same E3 2011 trailer and pretended to not know what Wii U was. Yeah, but that's kind of what I thought was going to happen. I thought that it was going to be revealed this calendar year, and it turns out it's not. So again, I'm going to eat crow on that. Look at me being wrong and admitting that I'm wrong. Even though, I find it kind of odd. And I'll get to talking about this in a little bit because I'll start talking about the rumors and stuff too, that a lot of other YouTubers don't do that. They just move on to the next topic, especially YouTubers that do ad reads. And I may or not have been a featured guest on a podcast before. So I got a couple of topics that I want to talk about. I know the first question is, hey, ShadowCasts, where the hell have you been? So I've been gaming, working, gaming, family stuff, gaming, and mostly just that because, so the people that follow me probably on Twitter probably saw me active a lot. And that's because Twitter is available whenever. And I post, stop, and then I go do something else. Versus me having time dedicated to sit down in front of a camera to talk to you guys. And I know if you follow the associated acts with the channel, which would be the Winging It podcast, the Winging It crew, you see me on there. I try to be there semi-regularly as much as possible every Sunday on that podcast. Shout out to Jay for hosting the podcast and having me on there, even though I'm not as regular as I should be. And also, I try to show up as much as possible on the other Associated Acts podcasts. So even like the Sandstorm channel, every once in a while, I haven't been on there in a very long time, but the Juicy Loose crew, if they decide to have me back on there again, maybe, I don't know. I had some people ask me about that before, about why am I not on the podcast. That's a whole nother scenario. I don't know. I guess talk to Terminator Juice. We'll go from there. If you want to see me on there, that's fine. We did like a really, really good podcast about Xenoblade Chronicles X a while back. And shouts out to them. And you may have seen me on Nintendo Prime's channel, his inaugural podcast that he started. I think it was Tuesday, then Wednesdays, and now it's Thursdays. But yeah, I was a guest on his podcast. We did a co-stream, and then I posted that on the channel as well, just so you guys would have some content for the year. So you're wondering, hey, what the fuck is ShadowCasts doing? Like, he shows up on podcasts here or there. He'll upload here or there. He'll throw a short up here or there. And that's that. Like, I know y'all know more about the GameCube, so you're like, why is he throwing up a fucking GameCube video? Like, I understand. So there will be some stuff here or there that I'll plan to do on the channel here and there. But understand, please try to bear with me. I do this channel in my spare time. I think I've said this quite a bit, but I don't plan on this ever being anything other than free. Before you clicked on this video, did you see an ad? In the middle of this video, did you see an ad? You probably won't. And going forward, I hope for it to be that way. And if for whatever reason they start putting ads on videos that aren't monetized, then I will make sure that I find a non-monetized platform and make it available that way too, because that's bullshit. It shouldn't be that way. It's called YouTube, which means that you provide the content for other people to see, because you're just providing your voice to the world. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to. And the Twitter sphere is crazy. I'm going to leave that alone soon. So most of you that have been following me heavily have already followed me on Blue Sky. So just go on Blue Sky. You'll ask around. You'll figure out what's going on. I may put it in the description of the video if you need to find my account. I may change that account too because I might want an actual official one. So I'm in the middle of building a server, so we'll see how that works and see if I can tie it into it. I don't know how many pings and hits I want from the entire world. Going to a front end, I could do Cloudflare or something like that if I wanted to, but I'm not sure how I want to do that. But there may or may not be an official version of my account, but probably link will be in the description of what my current account is if you want to follow me on Blue Sky for non-drama related posts for me and whatever new content I have going forward. Who knows? You may have gotten to this video because of my Blue Sky post. So that's kind of what I've been going through. Been playing games, lots of games. 2024 was crazy. I'm in the middle of Stellar Blade. Still trying to get through God of War Ragnarok, a couple other games. Of course, I mean, if you just look in the background here, obviously I play Streets of Rage 4 24/7. So it's hard for me to get to other games because I can't stop playing Streets of Rage 4. If it's a good game and I play, like, I'm just going to be stuck. I don't know what else to tell you. The current game that I'm playing on Switch right now is Unicorn Overlord. You guys should probably play that game. I will highly recommend that. I would highly recommend Stellar Blade this year. Even though I've only seen the start screen, probably Astrobot. And I other games that I haven't started yet, I have Bombrush Cyberpunk, but I'm going to see how that's going to go. I'm pretty sure that's a game that I would like. In addition to, what else have I played this year? I'm trying to think now. So I'll probably cut away a little bit here. I'm not really sure, but there's a bunch of stuff I've been through. Obviously, F-099, been playing the new maps on there. MEO the Smiling Man. Yeah. A fellow creator reached out to me and told me to try the demo, and it's pretty good. So, gonna be playing that pretty soon. I've only played Killer Instinct a little bit this year, and Xbox as a whole has been kind of dry for me, but it's more my fault more than anything else because I haven't really gotten any games for Xbox. I haven't tried Indiana Jones. I probably need to download that at some point. Apparently that game is really good, so I'm going to look into that. Other than that, like, nothing really on Xbox. I actually got back into using my Steam Deck again, which is since the clock works now. Like, it finally fixed itself after it. I guess it needed, like, it had 8 updates staged and they somehow got stuck. So I sat there and just waited for them to all update on their own. And once they finished updating on their own, the time updated, my region updated, and then it did what it needed to do once it connected to Steam again. So that's great. So I've been playing another fellow creator, friend of the show, part of the Winging It crew as well, Fangirl Review. She recommended Dredge, so I was playing that. It's pretty good, pretty interesting. Just a bunch of games I've been playing. Again, Streets of Rage 4, and eventually, got a couple of friends of the podcast, the OG podcast as well, like going way back to N-Dub days, that has played me in multiple fighting games online and continues to whoop me, and wanted me to get this game real bad so he could whoop me in Marvel. And eventually I'm gonna unseal that one and play it too. But yeah, a lot of stuff. Been played around with the PlayStation Portal, have that over here, sit over here too. Built my son a gaming PC, so I got a 4070 Super sitting over here just for whatever reason. Eventually I'm gonna unbox Bayonetta 3. We shall see. That's kind of what's been going on with me. Just a lot of different things going on as far as gaming goes. Anyway, playing across all the different platforms. Got a new Mac. Actually, gamed on that a little bit. Didn't play Balatro yet. I'm gonna have to get around to playing that at some point. But that's on every platform for the most part. And there's one other thing. I can't think right now, but there's one other thing that I wanted to mention regarding gaming, but I'll get back to that later. So the other topic that I want to get to, and that's going to be these weird Wii U takes, man. So I keep getting them. One of them is from another friend of the show that you know, for the most part, me and him agree on everything. Player Essence. And I want to say way back in like July, he did a video talking about Wii U because people were talking shit about Wii U, and he started talking about it and talking about how why it failed and stuff like that. And we keep having this same thing over and over again because it relates to the Switch successor. And that's the whole, and even V-Sips, another friend of the show on Player Essence podcast. We used to be on this podcast together. And the conversation apparently is now like Switch 2 being the name is the best thing for the Switch successor because, oh my God, Wii U. And I'm thinking, there was never a Nintendo Entertainment System 2. There was never a Wii 2. There was never a Game Boy 2. There was never a DS 2. At no point has Nintendo ever iterated directly in that manner with regards to marketing. And to varying degrees, these systems either failed or succeeded, not just on name, but based on everything else that came with that system. Because no matter how bad a game, the name of a system is, if you market it well enough, or even if you don't market it well enough, as long as the games are there, people are going to come. As long as people know the games are there, people are going to come. But if there's an active suppression of what's there, i.e. with Wii U, then yeah, the system's going to fail. When you have people that are supposed to be professionals in gaming press say they don't know if a new console got revealed after the podcast that I did that was 4 hours long, Sandstorm and GVGINU game I did, guy Andre. We were on that podcast for 3+ hours, and we watched the entire presentation from beginning to end for the most part. And I counted on hand at least 7 times them saying new console, new system. And that was in 2011. And the very first thing that a G4 Tech TV employee decided to say was, I'm confused that if this is a new system or not. And the strange thing is that moniker never stopped even after that, because directly after that, all of press went to go touch Wii U. They got to see the system behind it, and the people there with keychains tells you this is the system. Everything runs on here. They heard Satoru Iwata say that the gamepad has no functionality. Everything's being streamed from the console. So it's just odd to me that kind of thing happened. But obviously there was some type of coordination there where people pretended to not know what the system was. And that's fine for your average layman to say that. But when professionals do that, that becomes a problem, especially when it happens 2 E3s in a row. But either way, that was the only rebuttal I really had to Player Essence. Everything else that he was talking about, he was talking about the commercials and stuff like that. All of that stuff was bad. Even the initial stuff that showed a lot of the stuff that I liked from it, the stuff that I liked about the initial Wii U promotion was the same things I liked about the initial Switch promotion, which was turn your TV off and you can still game. That was the very first thing you saw at the very first Wii U promotion during E3 2011. The first thing that happens is somebody's playing Mario and somebody says, hey, I want to watch the baseball game. They turn the baseball game on and they pick up the gamepad and continue playing. Immediately, I was sold then. So as soon as I saw Karen on roof holding the Switch, or the one guy that was playing Zelda and taking his dog for a walk or whatever, and he takes the console with him and plugs it back in the TV and turns back, sold. It's the concept and how I'm going to game. I already know I'm going to get Nintendo games, so I already know that's it. But as soon as you tell me, hey, I can play these Nintendo games and I don't have to be attached to a TV, like whenever the family wants to watch something else, I can be in another room or in the same room with them and still game. That's exceptional to me. And now it's almost like the world is proving Wii U was right again as a concept because of how Switch took off and how PlayStation Portal has had some moderate success. People have bought this thing, even though like the only thing it does, is exactly what the Wii U gamepad does, except it's a separate accessory you have to buy for $200, and people bought it. So it's just an odd thing, and it's more laggy than a Wii U gamepad is. The Wii U gamepad, it displays to the gamepad before it displays to the TV, so there's never a difference between you looking down and looking up. It's just a strange situation. But that was the only thing that I had with regards to a disagreement with Player Essence on that situation, with regards to the name and the marketing being bad and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, the marketing was bad, but there was other sinister stuff in place as well, because you literally had developers that promised support on stage during E3 2011, literally dropping support and leaving finished games like Crysis 3, like leaving it finished and not publishing the game. So it's just stuff like that that's just really odd. The poor performance, even though I like the gamepad support, the poor performance in games like Mass Effect 3 on Wii U as well is really telling, because that system is significantly more capable than PS3 and 360, especially PS3. And there's zero reason why the PS3 version should have better performance. Zero reason. You have 4 times the amount of RAM, and you have eDRAM that's significantly faster than any of the RAM on either one of those platforms, and you can't get better performance. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then from the same publisher, you have Need for Speed Most Wanted 2, which literally used PC assets and was spec for spec a PC version of the game, just a low-end PC version of the game, but still significantly better than the other 2 platforms at the time, 360 and PS3. So it's like, when there's effort, you can clearly see there was a difference in that being an 8th generation system and not a 7th generation system. But because of what was brought to you other than that one game, everybody thought that this system was significantly weaker, and it just was designed differently than everything else. It was designed forward thinking and not how 7th gen was. 7th gen, for the most part, if you're not talking about Wii, if you're talking about 360 and PS3, it was high SIMD on the CPU. So a lot of the high demanding tasks were handled on the CPU, and the GPU was only like drawing stuff and adding different effects and whatnot in whatever resolution they were doing. And Wii U was the opposite of that. A lot of the demanding stuff, in addition to drawing pixels and stuff on the GPU, all that demanding SIMD stuff was also done on the GPU. There was zero reason for all that heat to be on the CPU, and the CPU wasn't designed for that. And developers did not do that because they're coming from 360 and PS3, and they're like, oh, our code isn't working, whatever, we'll just make it work however, and you end up with whatever you get. So, and as much as I tell this to people, in real time, they'll say, oh yeah, you're probably right. But on a forum board, no, they're just going to reiterate whatever they want to reiterate from whoever they heard, whatever bad YouTube video all over again. And if I talk to that same YouTuber in real time, they would agree with me too. It's just, they can't do it while they're thinking, and I won't even say on their own, but they're thinking in their own echo chamber, because their own echo chamber is really everything that's fed to them on their feed. They don't think past what their feed shows them. And their feed shows them all the talking points from a long time ago. And a lot of those talking points were made by gaming press. So you'll see stuff like that. And the same thing happened. They tried to do the exact same thing to Barry Switch early on too. I didn't forget. There were a lot of videos of people saying, well, I'm skeptic of how the Switch is going to do. It's anemic. Like, the hardware is weak. What are we going to do? Oh, it's just paltry 32 gigs of storage. What are we going to do? How are we going to store our games? The same way you did on Wii U. You don't do installs on Wii U. The game runs from the disk. The same thing with Switch. There's instantaneous loading from the cartridge. That also means you don't need like all these big install sizes for these games, because you could just re-reference what's on the cart and read it instantly in real time. But, you know, people don't understand. It's like people only understand certain buzzwords and they'll go to, I don't know, Tom's Hardware, or they'll go here or there or whatever and look at how PC gaming works and assume that's exactly how a console works. And it's not. When was the last time you played a PC game on a cartridge? I'll wait. When was the last time every PC in the world had eDRAM that you could directly pull from at any point in time, either as L3 cache or as dedicated GPU memory? I'll wait. When was the last time a PC game was designed for just one set of specifications and all the drivers are already baked into the game? I'll wait. These are the things that you don't have to worry about when you're a console developer. Everything's already there. These are the advantages. You don't have to load shaders. They're already there in the SDK. So when we talk about these comparisons and you start talking about, oh, well, look at if you take a i5 and you make it the same clock speed as a Nintendo Switch, it just doesn't, it's not the same. It's not the same at all. And comparing a really bad port to a souped up port on another platform, or I don't know, the lead SKU of a game, which they spent 4 years on, and then a 6-month port to Switch, it's not a real comparison. And it's not a benchmark of what the hardware can do. And then we talk about the actual benchmarks, or even something like trivial like Geekbench, right? You don't even want to look at the Geekbench scores, because if you look at the Geekbench scores, then you're, well, the CPU 70 is a little bit higher on the Switch than the actual PS4. Wow. Clock for clock, Switch is beating PS4. You don't want to look at those things, because it will tell you things like the Jaguar tablet CPUs were really weak back then. And both Sony and Microsoft really wish they could have had the Cortex A57 that was in Switch at the time. They were probably waiting on it and they couldn't get it. They probably really wanted it. And now they're stuck with AMD. So now they're dealing with Zen, and the Zen 2s are still tablet CPUs. They're low cache. They won't tell you. Microsoft tried to talk around it and say, hey, look at the total cache in the entire system. And they start counting the GPU cache. What's the point if the CPU can't talk to the GPU and take the cache that the GPU has, like Wii U can do? So they talk around this stuff to make you think that the CPUs are stronger than they are. No, the CPU, even in the PS5 and the Series X, they're not there. They're not. They're not desktop class. They're not workstation class. They definitely aren't server class like someone marketed as. No. The bulk of the wattage goes to the GPU on those systems, that's most game consoles anyway. Since Wii U, the bulk of the voltage is going to go to the GPU on the console. That being said, now that we're done with the whole Wii U space anyway, and the Switch 2 name, I don't know how I really feel about that, because again, it doesn't really matter. It could be 2. And yeah, that would get like your layman's and the really, really not smart people to just say, yeah, that's the next Switch. But Nintendo has never had to do that. And before you say Wii U again, I will mention Super Nintendo Entertainment System. I will mention Nintendo 64, which doesn't even put Nintendo Entertainment System in the name anymore. Nintendo GameCube. Nintendo Wii, and at some point they took Nintendo off and just said Wii. Come on. It wasn't GameCube 2. It wasn't Super Nintendo Entertainment System 2 or Nintendo Entertainment System 3. N1 was NES, N2 was Super Nintendo, N3 was N64, N4 was GameCube, N5 was Wii, N6 was Wii U, N7 is Nintendo Switch. 7 generations of Nintendo consoles, and Nintendo started their generation in Generation 3. So, At no point has a 2 been introduced. So in my opinion, it could be one or the other. I feel that Nintendo could bungle the marketing just like they did with Wii U. Nintendo could bungle the name just like they did with Wii U. But one thing they can't do and one thing they won't do is allow gaming press to introduce their platform anymore. There won't be any E3 reveals anymore. They won't trust press at all during their first reveal of this console. They're going to do it themselves. In addition to that, Nintendo's also going to ensure that they're engaged with the amount of pre-orders and how much stock is available. They'll be doing that and making sure that it's not scalp proof. That it is scalp proof anyway. So even if they did, say they came up with, they called it Switch U, right? But then you saw Mario Kart 9, and Mario Kart 9 is only available on Switch U. And Super Mario Odyssey 2, and it's only available on Switch U. Legend of Zelda: The New Dimension, and it's only available on Switch U. Xenoblade Chronicles X 4K Remastered Edition, and it's only available on Switch U. Oh, but you could play Xenoblade Chronicles X Remastered Edition on Switch if you want to. But if you want to play it in 4K with DLSS, you got to play it on Switch U. People are going to buy Switch U. It's just a foregone conclusion. Everybody knows that it will be the natural successor to what the Nintendo Switch is. Everybody has a Nintendo Switch. They know that's what that is. They know it's not going to be an accessory to Switch. Especially since gaming press won't be telling them or acting confused that it's like it's an accessory to Switch. So since that bullshit won't happen anymore, there won't be an issue. So, yeah, so, just a couple of things. I know this video is going long already. It's about to be a ShadowCast as this video continues. But I really, really need to get some things out of the way since I haven't really been talking to you guys for a long time. And I know it's New Year's Eve and y'all got other stuff to do. But here I am, right? So, other things that have been going on, right? You got, pretty much I've been right. You have Square admitting that they need to be more and more multi-platform because Final Fantasy games have been on Xbox platforms too. So it's not like when they say multi-platform, they're not talking about, hey, we need to support the Xbox. You've been supporting Xbox. Hey, we need to support PC. You've been supporting PC. What has Sony been keeping Square from publishing on? Mainline current Final Fantasy games being on a Nintendo platform at the same time as Sony. That's what's been happening. They didn't care that it was day and date with Xbox because they know what the audience is for Xbox and people ain't buying a game like that. People are going to play it on the PlayStation. But if Nintendo's there, it's a problem. For the same reason that, GTA and other games that clearly would run on, consoles don't run games anyway. That's a whole nother video. We'll talk about that. People develop games for consoles. Games don't run on consoles. But if GTA were to be ported to a Nintendo platform, like say Wii U, right? And GTA 5 was on Wii U. How much differently do you think that platform would have done? And before we get into the conversations of, oh, well, GTA 5 couldn't run on Wii U. And I'm like, GTA 5 was a PS3 game. So even with your logic of this weird little barometer of power levels of how a game can run on systems, it really doesn't work that way. But even using your logic there, it's a PS3 game. You're going to tell me that Wii U can't run a PS3 game? There's PS3 games already on Wii U. So if Wii U had GTA 5 on it, you going to tell me people wouldn't go out and buy Wii U? If they could play GTA and the map was on the screen? Just something to think about. It's just one of those weird years where people are I mean, they're forced to realize this for once because Nintendo is dominating in such a weird way where, like, just recently, and Player S has put this in his video too, that like you could look in all 30 titles in Famitsu were Nintendo Switch games. All of the top 30. That's insane. They're running Japan. Literally running Japan. Probably the same with Media Crate. I don't know if Media Crate's still around anymore. Maybe Famitsu owns Media Crate. I'm not sure. But y'all let me know in the comments if I'm right or wrong or not. But basically, Japan, the sales data is all Nintendo Switch right now. And even that, like, the majority of them are exclusive games to Nintendo Switch. So you can't really say that. I think it was, what's that weird guy, that clown? One of these weird guys on social media. He makes like YouTube videos and stuff, and then he stealth replies to people on Twitter and stuff. And then does stealth videos on people, doesn't let them know the videos being made about their tweets and stuff, and then starts laughing at them. But this guy started talking about how exclusives don't matter and whatnot, and I'm like, yeah, exclusives do matter, and that's why these systems exist. That's why consoles exist. Otherwise, people would just have PCs. I mean, if God of War launched day and date on PlayStation, all these PlayStation games launch day and date on PC, do you really think people would just be buying PlayStations like that? They wouldn't be. They just have their own PC build at home, and they will wait until the announcement, because it would be for both PlayStation and PC, and they'll just buy it on PC. So the exclusives matter. There's a reason why you want to emulate all those Nintendo games, because you can't get them on PC. That's why you want to emulate them so fucking much. Oh, I want better performance. No. You just want to play Nintendo games for free. Keep it a buck. Keep it a buck. Keep it a buck. Because you will emulate them even before you got better performance on them. Even when it was like really, really bad performance and those emulators were brand new and they were shit shaky and every game was different and it was weird, you were still trying to emulate them shits because you didn't want to buy a game. Keep it 3,000. And those games are exclusive. They will never, ever be published by Nintendo for PC. Ever. Just deal with the pain on that, but that's reality. I kind of feel that as the way things were going this generation, which I kind of saw anyway, that was just going to be kind of like a split, not a split generation, but the generation wasn't going to matter unless Nintendo moved the needle, because all that was going to happen was PS5 and Series X were going to be also RANs, which means that, well, it's an Xbox One game, so now it's a Series X game. Well, it was a PS4 game, so now it's a PS5 game. Instead of, all this power, all these teraflops, or as Mr. T, friend of the show, also, we'll call them titty flops. All these titty flops, and you get a couple more pixels in the same fucking game with the same invisible walls and the same glitches and the same ham sandwich loading times. The loading times are decreased a little bit. I will say that's great. It's wonderful to only wait a couple of seconds now, and instead of several minutes it took on the older platforms. But as a gamer that came from using, cartridges, I'm not used to waiting at all, period. I'm used to putting the cartridges in and pressing start, and then I can go from level to level to level with no loads. It's just, to me, it's just funny that you come up with a form of storage to make up for the problem that using a disc in the first place created. Or that using a hard drive to make up for the fact that you're using a disc in the first place created. So you use the hard drive to buffer storage from the CD because the read speeds on the CD or DVD were too slow, and you stored them on a hard drive because that was faster, but the hard drive read speeds are still slower, significantly slower than what RAM would be, and those are bad too. Well, you could have just had a cartridge that didn't have instantaneous. But that's another That's another. And obviously, if you wanted a 200 gig cartridge, or if you want a 200 gig cartridge at any point in time, it's going to be prohibitively expensive these days. But that's neither here nor there. We're talking about trillion-dollar companies that are competitors to Nintendo. So I don't even know why price is an option, because they spend all this money making consoles that are loss leaders. So why make them low-budget tablet PCs on the CPU side with a mid-range laptop GPU? I don't know. It's just one of those weird things. And when I talk like that, people are like, "Oh, why are you hating on?" I'm just speaking real, because that's what's really there. Because you're really real when you talk about, hey, Nintendo Switch it literally is a tablet. It's Tegra X1, the fastest mobile SoC on the planet in 2016. And when I mentioned that, there's tablet CPUs and other two platforms, now it's hating. But it's just calling a spade a spade. Is Nintendo Switch a tablet? Yeah. Wii U had an actual tablet attached to it, and then they continued that form factor. But Sony and Microsoft gave you pieces of that form factor in the logic board on those systems and didn't tell you. They tried to pretend it was something else and threw Zen 2 on there, and you were instantly buying it because you thought it was a desktop part. I'll say again, it's not a desktop part. I'll do another video in detail about that. I had one queued up a while back, and I kind of got lost in the details about it. And then at the time, Microsoft was updating specifications and with new interviews. And then the interview for the guy that posted details about it got struck down. Like, they took it off the webpage. So I'll have to look at that again to give y'all detail about that again. So yeah, man. So one of my another one of my long videos I'll have to do and see how that one does. I don't know if you guys like these catch-up videos or not, but I felt that I needed to do this. So y'all let me know how y'all feel. But yeah, man. So that's kind of what I've been up to as far as the gaming space goes. And was Shadow Fox right? Yeah. Diminishing Returns, yeah. Now you're starting to hear your favorite YouTuber talk about Diminishing Returns, huh? All right, yeah. Welcome to the N-dub days. I've been saying this since 480p. So for y'all that have been following me before I ever threw up my first YouTube video, yeah, I've been saying this. I've been saying this for a long time. And you can see other podcasts that I've done. I've been saying this. It's Diminishing Returns. There's only so many titty flops you can throw at the screen. There is only so many pixels you can throw at the screen before it's not worth it anymore. Did you really spend $120,000 a year on one person to take 900 photos of a plant to being the background that you're going to walk by and not interact with in a game? Did that really happen in Assassin's Creed? Did it? Which is crazy to me, because now you could AI that shit, which means that previously you could have Googled that shit, because all AI is doing is just repeatedly Googling. It's just really odd. It's just strange that we have come to, and we have our resident tech heads. They do YouTube videos for a certain website that decided to pay their bills from being forum goers at first. And now they tell you what image quality is. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? And image quality, how do you determine what the quality is? What you think real looks like? What you think crisp looks like? What if the developer's original intention is for a certain part of the game to look blurry? For a certain effect? How do you grade that in real time? How do you know what a developer's intention was or isn't during a certain game? Like, after the fact, I've read before how Suda51 was mocking the GTA engine, and that's why it looks so sluggish in the open world parts of the original No More Heroes. But depending on whatever YouTuber you listen to, oh, it's the performance of the Wii. There's open world games on GameCube that perform better than that. It was intentional. But it's just strange how some of these words, these buzzwords go around, and I remember them all. Remember when it had to be a dot product version of butt mapping, and I'm like, you're gonna make a sample, period, to do the bump map, right? Because you gotta have these values that you're going to determine height from, right? And you're gonna use a color scale to determine what the height is gonna be, and then you're gonna map it, and then you're gonna make it flat again, so it appears like the thing. So all these buzzwords are really strange, and some of them are based on the science of whatever is happening or whatever the technique is that's being used in a certain transformation, a certain type of blur that's being used, or a certain type of curve that's being used, whatever type of math is being used, right? But the way that they're being shorthanded, and like the term dev is really strange to me anyway. Especially when the majority of the time when these interviews, they're not with quote unquote devs anyway, they're publishers or PR people. You're not a dev. If you're a writer, you're not a dev. Unless you wrote a line of code, you're not a dev. I'll just say that. That's yep, take a steak knife and put it in my shoulder. Yeah. Do you int main? Do you int main? If you don't int main, then no. Are you part of the team? Sure. You're part of the development team. Did you code? No. There's a reason why they will say developer or tester, right? Would you call a tester a developer? Interesting how that works. We saw the diminishing returns, right? We saw how the pixels are not pixeling. The 4K is not 4K-er. We're getting 1440p's. We're getting a little bit of 1880p's. So we're getting modes, performance modes and quality modes. Choose your own adventure in the game, right? The whole point of having a console is it's dedicated for that platform. Why are we choosing modes like we're playing PC now? But I saw this coming. I saw this coming back when the original Xbox launched with a hard drive, to be honest with you. The moment you could patch a game, I saw this kind of stuff coming. Oh, they're just going to all be like PC now. And sure enough, if you're not on the Nintendo platform, that's what you're dealing with. So that stuff's happening. We got studios closing like day one. Jesus Christ, we got... Sony keeps trying to do these live service games and they're not working. Concord, Lord help that team. But Sony's killing teams left and right. You got studios. Microsoft bought all these studios. I've seen 2 games from them. And Microsoft announced these studios 5 years ago. It's 2024 and not a single game has emerged from these studios. I think we saw one. That was the Bayou game. I think was just revealed not too long ago, and I forget what the name of the studio was, but that was one of the studios they showed. Too much Sea of Thieves going on. Not sure what they're going to do with Halo going from there here or not. So it's just a strange generation, man. 9th generation is strange. I know. Rob from Real 2 Review kind of said that maybe it's not 9th generation, maybe 8th generation was the last one. But I believe that time exists, and I believe that the Webster has a definition for generation, and they're defined by time. And since time has elapsed, and a new system was revealed in time, and it succeeded those other platforms, they're the start of a new generation of said console. A new generation of writing, a new generation of books, a new generation of car. All those things happen with time and succession. So in this succession, i.e. ninth generation of platforms, we've seen a lot of weird shit. We haven't been seeing complete games. We've been seeing a bunch of upreses and remasters of old games. Like the HD 2D stuff is great because it's actually a reworking of an original game. But we're seeing stuff like, why are we seeing Last of Us being remastered? Like, we're seeing a PS3 game being remastered on PS4 and then being remastered again on PS5. That happened. I just, if Nintendo did this, they'd be called the rehashers of the century. They already think that. They think that Mario 64 and Super Mario Odyssey are the same game anyway. These are the same Nintendo haters, right? They think those are the exact same games. And then they have nothing to say when something like this happens. Really, really odd. I don't know how to feel about it other than I told you so. These games take a really long time to make, and it requires a lot of experience with these modern engines, right? So what are they going to do? They got to sell you something in the meantime. So you're going to pay for them to gain experience on the platform. Here's an old game that we're using to test the engine with. And maybe we'll give you a new game by the time we're done. Good luck. Enjoy. That's where we're at right now. That's where we're at. Now, there's a new system that's going to be coming out. By the time most of you watch this video, it will be this current year, 2025, by the time most of you watch this. For the few of you that jump on this as soon as this video published, it'll be going into 2025 and you'll still be in 2024 for a couple minutes. But we're about to see a real generation change. How it's supposed to happen, right? You're going to see a console being launched that's a true successor to the previous console. And there will be a generational leap both in fidelity and your experience in how you play those games. Something will be drastically different in how you play a game on Switch's successor versus the original Switch. How those games look will look drastically different than how they look on Switch. If not by the drastic increase in resolution alone and upscaling, because the upscaling will be there and it will look pretty clean. And upscaling doesn't exist at all on this platform with the exception of some FSR in some games. And most of those games you can't really tell it's there anyway. With the exception of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, it looks pretty good at times. So we're about to see that. How Nintendo chooses to do this, well, not Nintendo, how third parties choose to do this is really going to be, because Nintendo's going to hit it out of the park. They're fine. They know what to do. They know how to support their own thing. And that's why they're taking their time to reveal it and show you what they've been working on for the longest time. Because their biggest minds at work, they've been done with Nintendo Switch for a long time. They've been working on their new platform since the launch of Switch and working on how they're going to develop their engines as soon as the SDK got finished with NVIDIA, right? So they've been building games since about a good 2019. So you're about to see the results of what they have with some of the things that are going to be available within the launch window. The third parties is what we're about to see. It's going to become a pivotal moment because we're about to see, at least for Japan, AAA third-party studios deciding whether or not they want to spend their time and actually make a decent port on a Nintendo platform, regardless of how much Sony cries. So if we actually see a game that looks like it could be a mirror image of a PS4 or PS5 game in your hands, it's lights out. It's a wrap. Nintendo's going to own the market. Fireworks going off. Cool. Already early. Yeah, it's lights out. I mentioned this in a post already on Twitter. Like, I said a long time ago, even back in the GameCube days, Sony didn't want to see a Grand Theft Auto on GameCube because GameCube was a more sophisticated platform. The graphics would look better. The load times will be better. It's a smaller disc, so it can seek infinitely faster than the DVD 1.x speeds that the PS2 was delivering. Even though the PS2 had better bandwidth than GameCube did, GameCube had better seat times and faster memory bandwidth per pin, though. It had lower overall, but for every pin that was available on it, was shooting. The load times were instantaneous with regards to what the developers needed within ETRAM. And you're only shooting for 480p, so you don't need that much. So it's going to be a strange thing now, because this exists specifically for that reason. And all these other PC handhelds that are coming out, getting all this strange money to get developed to chase what Nintendo Switch is doing, they're getting this money for a reason. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of the venture capital investors have something to do with what's going on at Sony's board of directors as well, to manipulate the market. I would not be surprised at that. It's a dirty game. But I'll leave that alone. That's speculation on my part. But I will say it would not surprise me if that was the case. But it's just strange how all these things come out, all these, legions and whatever kind of things are coming out now, because the GP Win has been doing it for the longest time, before Nintendo Switch, after Nintendo Switch. But when Nintendo Switch came out, all of a sudden everybody had this sudden urge to develop. Asus is like, hey, we'll make you could have been did that. Everybody saw the Nvidia Shield 2, and when the Nvidia Shield came out, everybody's like, we'll see how Switch does. Then when Switch became market leader, selling over 100 million, oh yeah, now we got something too. Yeah, we had a Switch killer over here. Sure. But it's a weird scenario now. So now we've moved to where, again, Nintendo has developers sweating bullets, almost like original Wii U. And before I get the jokes about Wii U, right, never forget how in E3 2011, Wii U was announced. In E3 2012, Microsoft had Microsoft Smart Glass. The PlayStation Vita was announced with Remote Play. Don't get it twisted. They understood what it was. And if Nintendo took off with it, they needed something to compete. That didn't come out of nowhere. That was a direct response. So please believe there's a Microsoft handheld and there's a dedicated PlayStation handheld somewhere in the works. They see what's happening. They see it. They know they can't touch it. Their problem is they have to make it also be a console like this is, and make it as instantly usable. That's their issue. Because right now, every cartridge I have in here, I plug a cartridge in here, and I can jump right into the game. No install needed. Unless I got a little weird little blue logo at the top of my game. I put Unicorn Overlord in there. If I don't press start to force an update, I jump right into version 1 of that game and I can play it. Complete. Other platforms, you are waiting to install. If you have real bad Wi-Fi or real bad local Ethernet, Lord help you. So, where do we go from here? How do I even tell you how this channel is going to go? Because the majority of it, there's a lot of reasons why I didn't do videos. Because if I post a video, right, to complain about something that I've already complained about, that I already told you was going to happen, it'll just be me. You can watch Dr. Trey for that. Like, Dr. Trey tells you all the time how he was right, and he goes back. I don't have time to go back to my old videos and clip it and then show you how I was right. You can see for yourself. All you have to, if you follow me, you watched them. If you follow me, you know what I said, right? You heard me say these things before. pixels per frame. How many megabytes of memory do you need per frame to get 1080p? You don't need more than 16 megs per frame, right? These are things I've been telling you over time. And for whatever reason, we got idiots everywhere that don't know what they're talking about, and they're reading from everywhere else that are telling you you need whatever gigs are in insert GPU here to get games to run. And I'm like, Wii U draws 1080p with 32 megs, and it don't even need the 32 megs to do it. So what is happening to where this GPU needs all this RAM? It's because it's doing a lot of extra work for games that are not designed for it. It has to store all those extra shaders because it doesn't know that GPU's configuration. But if that GPU has a baked-in configuration and there's other dedicated ICs on that platform to do other things, then you don't need all that extra memory. You really don't. And when you're developing a custom ASIC, right, and you're working with a partner like NVIDIA or whatnot, you can start to cut costs that way. Does Nintendo need a 4080 in a dock to give you a 1440p image? No, they don't. They need around 40 megabytes per frame, which means they only need 40 megabytes. I don't know how else to explain this to anybody that's new to this channel. Everybody else that's been following here, subbed here, thank you guys. I appreciate y'all. But anybody that's come across this video, I don't know how else to explain to you, but you should probably read a book instead of using Digital Foundry as evidence, right? Read a computer programming book. Or even better, watch a computer programming video. Watch how computer graphics work. Watch a video about that. Developers even tell on themselves, right? So there's a developer postmortem on Red Dead Redemption 2, right? Watch some of those. There's like 6 or 7 of them, and they tell you how they develop scenes. One of them is one of the railcar episodes, and they show you how they built the locomotive station, right? They'll show you how they did that, how they developed all the splines, how they drew an engine, how many triangles are there, how they set it up, how they designed and chopped up the level into pieces. So when perspective of the camera is shown, it's only shown in manageable chunks for the render target. Just start looking at stuff like that. And then when you start to hear these buzzwords that other people are talking about and whatnot, keep that in mind, right? Because what they're trying to do is sell you something. But they're trying to sell you something that you don't need. If every gamer was a PC gamer, I would understand, right? But I also understand that if every PC in the world was built like mine, I wouldn't need the specs I need for my PC. Because computer science exists. The only reason I need the high-end specs on the PC that I have is because there are other PCs that are completely different from mine around the world. And if they're running the same game, for us to have the same experience, we need to have different drivers and different settings in different places. Which means that, unfortunately, I'm holding a lot of shaders that I don't use in my game. I'm holding a lot of instructions that I don't use in my game. I'm holding a lot of DLLs sitting in Windows that have nothing to do with what my system is going to run. That's what your system is unpacking when you download gigs and gigs of data on Steam. Unfortunately, configurations for other people's shit. When it comes to a console, that should not be the case. There's only 1 or 2 configurations, either Xbox Series X or Xbox Series S, either PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 5 Pro, either Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch undocked. It shouldn't be the way that it is. And eventually people are going to start to understand, and you start understanding like, hey, why are the games so much smaller on Nintendo platforms? And they're like, oh, well, because, the Switch and the soul resolution. I mean, the Wii U had Blu-ray discs. And those games were still small too. How was it able to do it? Why were those games so much smaller? It's math, man. It's all math. And I've done these videos. I can do other videos before. If people want to ask, hey, how do you draw so much per frame? And why am I hearing from all these other tech channels that keep saying you need so many gigs when I got ShadowCasts over here telling me you only need so many megs? I can do that for you if that's what you're requesting. I would say put that in the comments, and I can go forward from there. But other than that, it's just been a year for me, man. Just sitting back and appreciating what I have. Been playing some old stuff. Been going back retro a little bit too. Been collecting some stuff here and there. Going back and trying to find some stuff. Got some GameCube games. Eventually, I'm going to put out that video to test the different versions of Ninja Gaiden 3. So I'll try to put that up. I'm trying to figure out how I want to do that one though. But other than that, like, y'all tell me what else y'all want. ShadowCasts will be coming. If not next Friday, the Friday after. But the new day will be on Fridays. So bear with me. Haven't nailed out a time yet. It might be 8 p.m. So I would say just stay tuned. I may put out info on the Winging It podcast, maybe. We'll see how that goes. And look for me being featured on other podcasts. I'll try to collaborate with other YouTubers. Y'all tell me who y'all want me to collaborate with. We'll go from there. And I'll be doing some reactionary content as well. So you'll see me reacting to other YouTube videos probably pretty soon here. And I got to do some showdown stuff on Twitter here and there. I was supposed to do one this weekend, and I didn't get a chance to do it this past weekend. So, yeah, people get spicy on Twitter or whatever, or whatever social media, or whatever. I'll engage live. If they're bold enough to jump in, we'll talk from there. But other than that, that's all I got. Do you play games to have fun or to impress other people?